Welcome to the deep dive. When we think about medications like semaglutide, these GLP-1s, most people probably jump to thinking about side effects, right? Or maybe just the discipline involved.
Yeah, that's the common
But
assumption.
what if the really big surprise, the real work, actually starts when the cravings just stop?
It's a fascinating angle, isn't it? And that's what we're getting into today, this unexpected territory, the psychological, the emotional landscape that opens up when food suddenly goes quiet.
Food, which for so many people has been like a constant companion,
And
a coping tool.
exactly. Comfort, distraction, you name it. And these newer medications, they're effective physically, sure, but they can also open up this, what one expert calls a quiet window, a space where you start hearing maybe deeper truths.
Right, and we've been digging into some really interesting field notes for this. There's one entry titled, "The Day the Food Craving Didn't Come." Simple, but powerful.
And also some reflections on the teachings of Dan Hollis. He talks a lot about semaglutide, but also support and this space between hunger and actual healing.
So our mission today really is to unpack what's going on in that quiet window. What's it telling us about our relationship with food?
And maybe how to navigate it, not see it as like a failure or a problem, but maybe an opportunity for some real self-discovery, maybe even rebuilding.
Okay, let's expect some aha moments then. Maybe redefining what wellness even means.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, so this idea, food going quiet, let's make it real. Tell us about Kate's story from the notes.
Right, Kate. She's 46, mother of 3, been on semaglutide for about 2 months when these notes were taken.
And physically, things were looking good.
Yeah, totally. 7 pounds down, blood sugar improving, minimal side effects, pretty much textbook positive results.
But inside?
That's where it gets interesting. She described feeling like a ghost in her own kitchen. That phrase just jumped out.
Wow, a ghost in her own kitchen. What did that mean for her practically?
Well, she shared the specific moment with Dan Hollis. She walked past her pantry, something she'd done thousands of times, and for the first time in maybe 20 years, she said, nothing reached back.
Nothing reached back. That wasn't about the weight loss then, was it? That was the real shock.
Exactly. The silence was the surprise.
Uh-huh.
Because, you have to understand what food was for her.
The notes said something like, the rhythm of hunger, like other people know hymns.
Yeah, precisely. Chips for the afternoon slump, bread when she felt lonely, cake for celebrations, for joy. Food wasn't just fuel.
There's like a language,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
emotional response system, her go-to.
Totally. And that brings us back to Dan Hollis's term, the quiet window. He calls it the moment where the food stops answering your questions and the real ones start talking.
And he says that's the part no one talks about.
Which leads to this next idea from Hollis, and it's kind of a heavy one.
Okay.
He talks about the grief of losing the thing that numbed you, even if that thing was, slowly making your life harder.
Grief over losing cravings. That sounds counterintuitive. Did Kate miss the actual food?
Not really, according to the notes. It wasn't the chips themselves. She missed, and this is a direct quote, the signal, the rhythm, the self-story that said, at least I know how to feel full.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. Losing the familiar pattern, the known quantity.
Yeah. She said she felt weird, like the house was too quiet, or her own head felt like a library after hours.
A library after hours. That's evocative.
She even told her husband, apparently, it's not that I'm sad, it's just that everything feels like truth now.
Wow. Everything feels like truth now. That's intense.
It really is. It highlights the coping mechanism that food had become. Without it, the raw feelings are just there.
So maybe for some people it is grief, but I wonder, could others feel maybe just relief, like finally the noise is gone?
Oh, absolutely. I think the reaction is deeply personal. It could be relief, disorientation, grief, maybe a mix. But Hollis's point is that something happens in that space.
And this is where Dan Hollis's perspective really comes into focus. He's not just looking at the medication. The notes describe him as someone who's lived in the hallway between biology and identity.
Yeah, love that description. And his core idea, his fundamental insight is this. Semaglutide doesn't fix you. It gives you space to fix yourself.
Okay, unpack that. It sounds like a warning almost.
He means it that way, I think. A
Okay.
warning, a framework, a call to step into responsibility. It's not a magic pill narrative.
So it's not the solution itself, but it creates the conditions for a solution.
Exactly. He uses this analogy of good lumber. Semaglutide is like good lumber. It's not the house. It's not the foundation.
Right.
But it's the kind of material that makes building possible if you're ready to do the work. It enables the work. It doesn't do the work.
Okay, that makes sense. It's an opportunity creator,
Mm-hmm.
which ties back to that idea of hunger not just being physical.
Yes. Dan sees physical hunger often acting as a stand-in, a kind of surrogate for deeper needs.
Like meaning, comfort, escape.
All of the above, whatever that underlying thing is that we're trying to soothe or achieve with food.
So when the medication quiets that physical signal, the stand-in,
Right. The static goes away, as Dan puts it, and what's left can be startling.
and that's when he says, when the cravings stop, the truth begins. That post-craving reality.
Mm. And that's where the disorientation, maybe the grief we talked about, comes in. Because food was the plan. It was the rhythm. It was the escape hatch.
So what's the hardest part then? When that familiar plan disappears? Is it just feeling lost?
I think it's the disorientation, definitely. Like the map you were using suddenly goes blank. You're off script, and you have to figure out entirely new ways to navigate those feelings, those needs that food used to handle.
That sounds incredibly lonely, which I guess leads directly to Dan's emphasis on community.
Huge emphasis. He says, flat out, most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone.
Alone in that quiet window.
Exactly. And he points out this critical challenge. Your body changes faster than your identity.
Oof, yeah. The physical transformation can outpace the mental and emotional one.
Right. So people need, in his words, a new architecture in their minds. And that's where he brings in this concept of scaffolding.
Scaffolding, like in construction.
Kind of. But not just, rah-rah motivational posts. He means actual neurobiological replacement structures.
Whoa, okay. Neurobiological replacement structures. Break that down.
He's talking about rituals, rhythms, routines, concrete things you do that build new pathways in your brain. They form a kind of lattice that keeps people upright when the chemistry wobbles.
So it's literally about rewiring, creating new habits that aren't just good ideas, but actually change your brain's default responses.
That's exactly it. Building new wiring. Replacing those old automatic responses reach for food when stressed, bored, sad, with new, conscious, healthier ones.
So the support, the community, the routines,
Hmm.
it's not just nice to have.
Nope. He says support isn't optional. It's neurobiological scaffolding. It's fundamental to making the change stick.
Okay, so if scaffolding means rituals and routines, give me an example. What does that look like day to day?
It could be simple, really. Like instead of the automatic pantry visit when stress hits, maybe you have a planned 5-minute breathing exercise. Or a specific friend you call.
Or a winding down routine at night that doesn't involve snacking.
Exactly. Or finding non-food ways to mark successes or joys. It's about intentionally designing those replacement behaviors and practicing them until they become the new default, building that new architecture.
Which really shifts the goalpost, doesn't it? It's not just about hitting a number on the scale anymore.
Not at all. It's redefining the win condition. Dan's whole model is aimed at helping people rebuild agency, reframe meaning, and relearn momentum. That goes way beyond short-term results.
Agency meaning momentum. That sounds much deeper.
And it leads to his really transformative statement, this journey isn't about eating less. It's about living more.
Living more.
Okay.
That's powerful. But how do you start living more when food was like your main coping thing?
Well, that connects to another key insight he has. Weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Biology gets you there, narrative keeps you there. Explain that.
The medication, the initial changes, that's the biology doing its work. But staying there, integrating that change into your life long term, that requires rewriting your internal story, your narrative.
Ah, okay. So actively building a life that's fulfilling in ways food never could be.
Precisely, designing a life that's too rich, too meaningful to need the old escape hatch. He thinks many people regain weight because they lose the weight, but they never rewrite their
He
story.
changed the body, but not the underlying script.
You got it.
So how do you navigate this quiet space without falling back? How do you prevent the silence from just becoming confusing, leading back to old habits?
Dan's approach is about filling that space proactively with structure, community, identity, purpose, and time.
Structure, community, identity, purpose, time. That's the scaffolding.
That's the scaffolding. And he has this interesting reframe of relapse, too. He says, people don't relapse into hunger. They relapse into confusion.
Confusion.
Yeah,
Because the old map is gone and they haven't built the new one yet.
exactly. And his method isn't about telling people what to do. The notes say he doesn't walk ahead shouting advice. Instead, he walks beside you asking better questions.
Yeah, there are questions. Like what?
Questions that make you think, really dig deep, like, what happens when your body stops screaming for food, but your soul still wants something to chew on?
Oof. Yeah,
Or what if the weight wasn't just physical, but historical, emotional, familial, getting you to look at the bigger picture?
that digs into the narrative part again.
Definitely. And maybe the most provocative one. What if semaglutide is less of a prescription and more of a pause button?
A pause button.
Wow.
That just lands, doesn't it? Gives you a moment to stop, look around, and decide what comes next, instead of just reacting on autopilot.
Yeah. A chance to interrupt the old pattern. Because for so many, food was the constant, the reliable thing, even if unhealthy. Take that away, and the silence is loud, but also potentially incredibly revealing.
Which brings us back to Kate. How is she doing? Is she navigating that silence?
Well, the field notes are clear. There was no breakthrough, no big epiphany. It wasn't like a movie moment.
Real life seldom is.
Right. But what was happening were these quiet, consistent shifts, small actions.
Like what?
Like just a Wednesday where she didn't snack through her sadness, or a Thursday where she drank tea instead of opening a second bottle of wine, presumably.
Small choices.
Yup,
Building blocks.
Exactly.
Right.
And a Sunday where she took a walk, not because it burned calories, but because it felt like a conversation with her future self.
Oh, I like that. A conversation with her future self. That's powerful framing.
Isn't it? So the notes conclude she's not done, she's not fixed, she's not suddenly a new woman,
But
but she's here, in the quiet, listening. That's the real protocol.
just being present in that space,
Yeah.
listening, that's the work.
Seems to be. It's a continuous process. Gentle self-discovery, maybe.
This has been, quite the exploration. We've really dug into how this journey with meds like semaglutide is so much more than biology.
It really is. It's like this personal excavation project. The quiet window opens and you start hearing all the stuff the food noise used to drown out.
Yeah, and facing that, maybe grieving the loss of the old coping mechanism, but then, crucially, building that new scaffolding, that new narrative.
Mm-hmm. And if you, listening, find yourself in that quiet space, maybe feeling a bit unsettled because the old cravings are gone.
Remember what Dan Hollis says.
Yeah, you're not broken. You're just beginning to hear yourself again. Welcome to the quiet window. You're not alone here.
Such a reassuring message.
Yeah.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, building on all this. If weight loss is biology and staying there is narrative,
What story are you ready to write for yourself now that the noise has maybe quieted down?
what new architecture will you build in that space that's opened up? It's not just about food, is it?
Not at all. It's about how you choose to live.